What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. If you've never been here before, check out the 400 or something videos that I have up. Go on a binge and check them out. There's some good stuff up there. Everybody else, welcome back to my viewers. For those of you that have never visited the channel, I served 17 straight years in the New York prison system. I've been home over 12 years, just over 12 years. And today we are going to talk about what happens to gay people inside of the prison system. There is a lot of thought process of what people think happened to gay people, of what people think about the abuse they may go through, or let me get into it so I can put to rest some of the fallacies and some of the rumors that people may think about this situation. Let me take a sip of my coffee because my buddy Sharif might be watching. He likes to have coffee with me every morning. Very nice, very nice. So let me talk about the first most important thing is rape. People think if they watch Hollywood movies, if they watch television shows about prison, they think that this is prevalent inside of the prison system. So let me state a fact. And I didn't serve a week or a month in the prison system. I did serve 17 years straight in the prison system. And I was in serious maximum security prisons like Sing Sing, like Attica, like Auburn. And I was in medium security prisons. And in all those years in prison, I've never seen someone get raped. Not one time. I heard of it happening maybe once or twice in a prison, whether it was even true or not. I heard of it happening once or twice in 17 years. In the old days, before my time, maybe it was more prevalent in the prison system. But these days in New York State, I could assure you that it is not prevalent. That doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. That's like saying that it doesn't happen in society. It happens in society a lot more than it happens in prison, but you wouldn't believe that if you were watching the movies. Some of the reasons that it doesn't happen is one, is if someone does that to another prisoner, right? They are facing an extra 15 years added to their sentence, an extra 25 years added to their sentence, maybe life added to their sentence. And so that is enough deterrent right there to stop a predator from taking advantage of another prison. Now, for those of them that have life in prison already, right, it's still just not something that transpires. I don't know what to tell you. Also, if one prisoner does that to another prisoner, the rest of the prison population is not going to deal with the prisoner who did that abuse, right? They're going to see them as an outcast. They're going to see them as a waste. They're going to see them as a piece of garbage, right? And so it doesn't take place in the prison system like people think. That's all I could say about that. And another reason that it doesn't take place is you have openly gay men inside of the prison system. And if someone wants to be with another man, right, then there's men who are willing participants, right? It may not be a majority. It's not a majority. It's a very small minority. But there are gay men inside of the prison. And if a guy wants to fool around with them and be with them, then they have a willing participant and they find a way to do that together, right? If someone I could only speak for the crew of guys I was with. The white guys that I was with there was nobody in our crew that would participate in that behavior. Otherwise, they wouldn't be welcome in the crew because it brings a lot of problems inside of the prison system. Gay people bring a lot of the drama. They cause a lot of violence. They cause a lot of problems. And anytime that they're around in the prison system, something is always happening that's negative. Because it's just not the place. It's really not the place for that type of behavior, to be honest. So there wasn't any guys like that in the crew. And if someone if we knew of someone that was fooling around with a guy that was had any type of relationship with a man, most of the prison population, I shouldn't say most, the white guys, I have to speak for them, would shun them out. We wouldn't deal with anyone that was fooling around with another guy. A lot of the other groups, a lot of the other races didn't seem to care. You know what I mean? If one of the guys in their crew was fooling around with a dude, it seemed like they would turn a black eye. But I'm being honest, we didn't go for that. That we didn't go for that. So there were men in prison that were, as I said, willing participants, and one of the reasons why they wasn't forced upon them. You know, anytime, as I was saying, anytime that you have the gay men in prison, it does bring a lot of problems. Forget about when like a transsexual comes in, right? One of them that has breast, or one of them that really looks like a woman. From my experience, when they had a man come into the prison that really looked like a woman, that had the body of a woman and acted like a woman, and had breast, they did not last in the population long at all, for several reasons. One is, if someone comes in looking like that, there is a good chance that the guys are really, certain guys are really going to try and push up on that individual and try and have sex with them, whether they want it or not. The push, I should say, is going to be very strong. You know what I mean? And guys, I've seen guys start fighting over them. I've seen guys stab each other over them, and I've seen a guy get killed over a guy that came into prison looking like a woman. Right? This guy comes into prison. It was, I have to say, he was very pretty. He looked like a girl, and he had breasts, and he had a woman's body, and a couple of guys were fighting over who was going to get this girl, and who was going to make this guy their girlfriend, right? And then one guy ended up killing the guy over it. That was up in Attica, right? So that's why I said it brings a lot of problems, and it brings a lot of issues. And so when they come into the prison population looking like a woman, they usually get out of the general population real quick. Usually the facility moves them out of the general population and puts them in protective custody, or what's called administrative segregation, or what's called IPC, which is involuntary protective custody, because it's going to cause nothing but problems. I've never really seen anyone in the prison yard holding hands together or anything like that. You may have seen that in the movies, but like I said, that stuff really doesn't transpire too much. What I have seen, and this was a pretty crazy incident, was in Attica Correctional Facility, is a black transsexual came in and really looked like a woman. I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell if this was a man or a woman. And the officers, several officers, ended up raping this prisoner. Um, the officers turned into a bunch of animals. They started cracking the inmate cell and asking him to sweep and mop, and then asking him to clean the office. And the next thing you know is they were asking for oral sex. And the prisoner felt like he was in a position where if he didn't do it, his life was really going to be difficult in there. And then the next thing you know, another officer did it, and then another officer did it. And they basically were running a train on this prisoner. You know, and I remember the IG came in, which was the Inspector General's office, because the prisoner went to the Inspector General's office and said that he was being sexually abused by these correctional officers. And to be honest, I can't tell you what the outcome was. I don't remember what the outcome was of all that. But they did take the prisoner and ship him out of the prison or into protective custody. And nothing, as far as I know, happened to the officers, but I really don't remember every detail. But it was pretty nuts to see that the officers couldn't control themselves around man, this male prisoner that looked like a woman and had the breast and had the makeup, and they couldn't control themselves. And you really got to see uh, uh, a pretty crazy scenario right there. That was up in Attica. Sorry, needed another sip of coffee. Mostly in the New York prison system, what they call the gay men that come in there, they call them chumps. That's what they address them as. They call them chumps, and you'll always see the guys that want to get close to the gay dude. They want to get close to the chump. They want to get close to the one that has the breast, right? But they don't want the other prisoners to know. Because a lot of them, they try and walk around like they're a tough guy and with this ego and that they're a man's man, so they really don't want the other prisoners to know, but they start doing things on the down low, like with the gay guy. They start getting a cup of coffee from him. Maybe can I borrow a honey bun off you? Can I borrow a cup of coffee off you? You have a cigarette, and they start the back and forth exchange with them, trying to build a little relationship with them. So that's because the guys don't want you to know that they want to mess with them, and then they find a way, they find a situation, they find an area where they can have relations, and they do their thing, but when the other prisoners find out about it, a lot of the prisoners do shun them out, and then that name sticks with them forever. You got to understand, like, I don't have any issue with gay people at all. I grew up with some very close friends of mine who happen to be gay, and I love them with all my heart, man. Yeah, I believe that everybody has a right to live any type of life that they want, and it's none of my business. You know what I mean? And I stand firm on that. But in prison, you have to understand that this is like a man's world in there. You know what I mean? And there's, like I said just before, there's an ego to uphold, and there's a toughness that you have to carry yourself with. And once you fool around with a gay guy, you're going to lose the respect and the courtesy from a lot of the other prisoners in the system. I'm sure the system is fluent to change. But what I'm explaining is the way it was when I was in the system. So I don't know if you have any other questions about it. You could ask any questions you want, but I figured I would give you a little idea of what it's like. In the prison system for the gay people. As I guess I'll close by saying that many of them do not end up staying in the population a long time. They start to feel unsafe, especially if guys start fighting over them. What is funny too is, I'll add this, is you will see some of the guys that you were the toughest guys, or some of the guys that acted like the biggest gangsters in the world, like these big tough hardcore guys, and then as soon as a gay guy comes in, especially one that's like a transsexual, those guys come right out of the closet and they start chasing them, and then you would have never thought, too. You would have never thought, but I've seen it a million times of guys that you never thought would fool around with another guy, and then all of a sudden one comes in that looks pretty, and they're chasing them, and so that's the story with that. Hopefully, I gave you a little information and a little understanding on the way that works. All right, you guys take care. Oh, good coffee, and have a good one. Take care.